Of information concerning the personal affairs of any person living or dead. I'd like to move that way. Thank you, Councillor Dunn. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Schofield. Open for discussion. Yes, Councillor Martin.
Well, I'm going to speak very strongly against this because I think the gallery has the right to hear about the performance of the CEO of their own council. I also have another significant concern. With all due respect to Mr. Bob Blair, he has a horrendously large conflict of interest here, and I'm wondering why he's still involved in it. We were told originally that Mr. Blair would only take part in facilitating the meetings panel, and yet here he is now with a prepared report that he wrote, ready to address the council about it. I just think it's totally unacceptable. Everybody knows what his conflict is. I've talked to people about it before. If an elected member had such a conflict of interest, they would be thrown out of the room. So I'm just wondering what's going on here about correct and decent procedure, because I don't believe that we can receive this report.
I can advise you that Mr. Blair has no input whatsoever to any of the meetings.
I think, Mr. Mayor, if you got some legal advice on this, you would find that Mr. Blair has a very strong conflict of interest, even being in the room. He's certainly got his name on the report. What more do you need?
Certainly disagree with you. Mr. Blair is there to provide information to elected members to cover off any questions.
Well, can I ask, would you like to ask Mr. Blair if he feels he's got a conflict of interest?
Well, we've got to firstly get through this first one, permanently going into confidence.
No, we don't. With all due respect, sir.
I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off.
No, well, I'm telling you, you've made a mistake in meeting procedure.
Sorry.
If anybody has a conflict of interest, they've got to declare it before anything on that item is discussed.
Mr. Blair is required to perform this particular agenda item.
He can't, he's got a conflict of interest.
Yeah, thank you.
Your Worship, through the Chair, staff members do not have a conflict of interest with Rachel being an employee of the Council, and in this case, Mr. Blair is only administering a process for Council. He is available to provide the Council HR advice and information on processes and matters of fact. He's not involved in the decision-making process, and there's no conflict.
With all due respect, I disagree strongly, because we've got a panel that's met on numerous occasions with Mr. Blair. I'm sure that Mr. Blair's provided them with the paperwork for those meetings. We have no minutes or agendas from those meetings that we can look at. They're not forthcoming to elected members, and they should be. In fact, those meetings should be open to all elected members who want to attend them. The way this council does things is rather incredible as far as I'm concerned. As I said, if an elected member with the same conflict had sat through all those discussions, they would be crucified, and the minister would do it. And I fail to see any difference. There's a code of conduct for staff, there's a code of conduct for elected members, and one of those biggest miscarriages of the duty in those COCs is having a conflict of interest, and particularly I still haven't heard a declaration of a conflict of interest even, which is supposed to be done before the matter even is aired. So I'm asking once again, Mr. Chairman, would you like to ask Mr. Blair, does he have a conflict of interest?
It's already been explained to you that he doesn't. He's a staff member.
I'm sorry, I'm asking him to.
That's the answer. It's not going to change.
All right, well, I'm sorry, I'll have to take this whole thing further. And since Mr. Blair hasn't declared a conflict of interest, I'm afraid he'll be included in that.
Thank you. Sorry, yes, Councillor Charles?
Okay, I see that in this confidential section there's a reference to the media, and I'd just like to say, while we're still in public, and it's nothing to do with that, I'm not divulging anything, the relationship with local media, if we're talking about a healthy relationship with our local media, which is the Times, then why do we have to discuss it in confidence? Immediately this builds a division between two important stakeholders in our community, and this is censorship. Hiding is not being transparent, is exactly what keeps building barriers between council and the Times, our community newspaper. We all pledged at the Recreation Centre 2 years ago, when all candidates met in the community before the election, to be transparent, to keep the community involved with what council is doing, to take a discussion about the media into confidence contradicts everything we said we would do. What needs to be said that cannot be said in the public forum. Surely, if we are and want to have a positive relationship with the Times, we need to take this item out of confidence and discuss it in the open. We must stop the censorship. Going through copies of the Times, predominantly the stories are positive regarding council, and there is not a week where the Mayor's photo is not in it. They have promoted the Main Street upgrade, men's shed, rate increase of 2%, frac updates, electors review, information sections, business breakfasts and luncheons run by council, surveys and consultation periods. We adopt the TDU Rock and Roll Festival and any other event we want to run. We cannot have it both ways. The Times still needs to report on what actually does happen, and everyone must admit we have some contentious issues we have to decide and discuss. If there is a problem, maybe it's at our end.
Thank you. Councillor Schofield?
Yes, look, I have may I ask Councillor Marshall a question?
Providing it's a reasonable question.
Okay. Councillor Marshall, you've just made accusations against Mr Blair, stating he has a conflict of interest. Can you tell us what you believe his conflict of interest is?
Well, for a start, he's reviewing his own boss. And I've got on pretty good authority that Mr Blair and Mr Maxwell are quite friendly. So he's reviewing his friend. It's not beyond the realms of possibility that they're also friendly, that both live in the same street for many years. Mr Blair has a wife, I believe he used to work for council, now works as a consultant for council. Mr Blair's son drives the horse train.
Perhaps we should leave this and...
So there's 3 members of his family beholden to Mr Maxwell. How can you not have a conflict of interest? This is a serious matter, and it's a breach of the law, and I don't care what, with all due respect, what our
how about you showing some respect, Councillor Marshall?
I am showing some respect. And how about you stop bullying me for a change?
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on. With all due respect, as being a member of that committee, I can tell you straightforward that Mr Blair had no input in any decisions or any recommendations that come back to this council committee, this council board.
He's written the support.
This is coming through for council to make a decision on the matter. It's a recommendation.
Yes, he recommended it.
He didn't recommend it.
Through the chair, thank you, Justice
Yeah.
Isma.
Thank you.
There needs to be a mechanism to get the administrative process documented into the report that's now before you. The recommendation is what the panel has recommended, not Mr Blair. He's just the officer putting the report up, and the report just provides their recommendation and, matter of fact, sets out the process that they follow. That is all.
Well, if I may comment, I've got pretty good access to someone I know who knows quite a bit about HR, and they say no way can a staff member do a review of their own boss. And don't keep telling me he's not doing it. He's written this report. I mean, and he wrote all the papers for the panel meeting, surely. And he must have put some recommendations in there.
Perhaps we'll move forward on this one.
Well, I'm just warning you. I'm just warning you. This is a serious breach.
Yes, Councillor Glasgow.
Let's get back to the confidence, if I could, please.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the conflict of interest. I just question, I suppose, in a way, the reason we decided to go into confidence is information, the disclosure of which would involve the unreasonable disclosure of information concerning the personal affairs of any person. We can then look down to resolution number 4. It says the resolutions be released from confidence and the register of salaries and allowances be amended accordingly. So does that mean that the information within this report will be released to the public afterwards anyway?
Yeah, thank you.
Your Worship, pending on the council's decision when you get to item 4, it's about releasing the decisions of council, not the report. report, and that the register of summaries, which is a public document, be updated so that the community will know what the decisions of council are that come from this process, so not actually about releasing the report.
So thank you. So in the light of that, really, I can't see what's competent. I mean, it's the CEO is an employee of the community. I don't think there's anything horribly bad in here, personally. So I see no reason for this to be in confidence.
Yeah, thanks.
I have a similar question, Your Worship. We're talking about information on the display concerning the personal affairs of any person living or dead. These aren't personal affairs. This report's around process in relation to the performance review, and the affairs are related to work performance and occupational affairs as opposed to personal affairs. So I'm not sure that we need to go into confidence in relation to this either.
Thank you. We'll move on. We have a mover and a second. All those in favour of going into confidence? And those against?
Call for division, please.
Well, I've got a vote too, this one, and I'm going to cast my vote to go into confidence.
Oh, that's a surprise.
Councillor Charles will call for, Councillor Marshall will call for division. All those in favour of going to confidence, please stand. And obviously put me in for casting vote. Councillor Chibitten, Councillor Dutton, Councillor Andrews, and Councillor Schofield.
All those with a big brown spot.
And those against, Councillor Charles, oh sorry, I'll let you get to it. Councillor Charles, Councillor Marshall, Councillor Gabriel, and Councillor Jenkins.